Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Give Me God of War walkthrough, and we're going to be coming back to this particular spindly device so that we can then push that platform we used previously to get to the next section into the claw, and then we can ride it up to the next sequence. This leads outside, don't do this. The game will even warn you, saying like, dude, you're cool, but I couldn't remember where that led, so I was double checking. Oh, excuse me. Goddamn body's in mutiny, apparently, making funny noises. But just push this forward into the claw, and then get ready for a pretty tricky section coming up, if it's the part I think it is, which is the ascent on the elevator, which leads to a showdown with a dragon. And I thought you'd fight way more dragons in this game than you do. I thought the dragons were going to be a big part of it, and each of them was going to be different, with a different moveset, and really epic and large in scale. And then you end up fighting one of them, and it's a shit fight. So, interesting how that works, isn't it? How anticipations and expectations can shift your view on things. But I hope you liked the dragon fight, because I know a lot of people online seem to. I just thought it was really, really boring. And hopefully I've got a pretty good strategy for the people who are suffering it. But this next sequence coming up, not this particular part with the traps, but the part afterwards, is a place that could be really, really hard. But thanks to the checkpoints that they give you, it's actually really, really manageable. The only problem with it is that you get pressured when you're on bridges and things, that you're going to have to do, you know, things that you don't want to do, i.e. activating the rage and things such as that, because it always comes across as if they're timed, and some of the sequences are timed, so it's good to have, you know, some haste in your step. But I always find, whenever you're on a platform like an auto-scroller, and then you have to take on waves and waves of enemies, that there's always like an anxiety from myself. I think it reminds me of when I was younger, and I used to struggle on those parts because they were always quite difficult. And it's kind of funny how that psychological shit stays with you, because a lot of the stuff that used to scare me when I was younger, you know, a lot of the games that I played when I was a kid, when I play them as an adult, I have this bedrock of fear for them, like an intimidation factor, that I don't get when I play modern games. But those old games, they still have this ability to invoke fear in me. And it's because I remember how much they kicked my ass. And it's an interesting thing to have that. And it's also an interesting psychological battle to beat it. Because there are certain games that the idea of playing them now, I find to be really intimidating. Yet I know that I'll be good at them, and I'll be able to beat them, and I'll be able to do great things with them. But there's still that kid in me who remembers getting wrecked, and it's interesting, that I find really, really interesting. It makes me want to go back and check out some of those things, but the problem at this moment in time is some of those challenges are really tough to do because they're on systems that aren't well supported anymore, and they're very difficult to get good versions of them, and they're very difficult to get versions that I can even stand playing. One of them would be a great example of that, which would be Lost Planet, a game that I found to be willfully difficult, incredibly difficult on Extreme, and I would love to go back and do the hardest difficulty, finding all the collectibles, because it's something I always wanted to do and I never did it, and I always were afraid of it because that difficulty took me a long time to beat because it's designed by a maniac, and I'd love to do that, but I can't play that game because it runs at like 10 frames a fucking second on an Xbox 360, and it'll just kill me. It will hurt me in my soul. And I bought the PC version from CEX.com, which is this super shady games retailer in the UK, and the bastards never sent me it. How bad is that? I even complained via email, nothing. Filthy bastards. The good news is, I paid £1 for it, so it doesn't bother me whatsoever. I can't even get on a bus for that, but still, you know, you buy something, you expect to get it, right? And I was going to get it for PC, and it doesn't have mouse and keyboard support. You have to go into like the msconfig file to mod it. So it was just a nightmare getting it. But I'd love to go back and do that, I really would. There's a ton of projects like that I'd love to go back to. And I think after this, I am going to go back to some. Like, I think I'm going to do Beautiful Joe, and I think I'm going to do some old God of Wars, because I only have God of War 3, God of War Ascension, and this on my channel, and I'd like to have some of the other ones, because I do love those games, and it's been forever since I've played them properly. And what I love about going back to series that I used to play a lot that I haven't played in a long time is that I don't play them the same. I play them differently. And every new game that I beat and every new strategy that I devise always benefits old games. And it's crazy how it does it. Like, playing God Hand, doing the hard kick me sign, doing Death Shudder, made me better at Guitar Hero. How the fuck does that work? It sounds impossible, right? It sounds insanity. It sounds stupid. It's true. And then getting better at Guitar Hero made me better at other games. Like, playing Nioh made me better at Souls games. How does that even work? Crazy, right? So when I go back to God of War with all these different experiences that I've had and all these different challenges that I've done, I'm going to play it in a completely different way. Speaking of playing it in a completely different way, on this part right now, I'm going to use Rage to knock that fat guy off. And the reason I did that is because everybody else can be knocked off really quickly and this entire sequence can be skipped effectively without any hassle, but he will not fall off. He refuses to get knocked off. And the best way to knock people off, guys, is to do the running unharmed heavy attack. Unarmed, sorry. And if you hit them with that, it's almost guaranteed knockoff. It's really cool. It's a super powerful knockback on it, and it's fantastic. The launcher will also do it like that. But did you see how quick that was? You have no idea how many attempts I tried to knock the fat guy off and do this section really quickly, but it just wasn't happening. And using the Rage just there is a pretty good strategy because you'll have a replenishment for it because it's already on the environment. So activate it, knock him off, turn it off, boom. I thought that was a really good strategy of getting rid of that potential nuisance. This is a fun section though, I like this section. I especially like the section with the ogre coming up. I really do. But it is interesting, like I noticed how differently I was playing God of War when I was playing Ghost of Sparta. Ghost of Sparta is a God of War game I haven't beaten. I got about halfway through and I thought it was boring, so I stopped playing it because at that time I was kind of burnt out on God of War, and that is a very God of War. And I went back to it before this game came out because I was so hungry for Kratos and his crazy zany adventures. And when I was playing it under pain restrictions, so I was using nothing, absolutely nothing except for my blades. And I was having a wonderful time, I was loving it. I wasn't on the hardest difficulty because you can't start on the hardest difficulty. Oh, by the way, guys, I got hit by the troll just then, and when I restarted it, it despawned everybody, and the troll jumps back down onto the bridge, so that's why that looks a bit weird. But when he drops, if you focus on him and hit him with your charged R2s, you can do incredible stun to him, bounce him against the wall, and you can ride him like I'm doing, and kill everybody else, and this fight becomes incredibly simple. The strategy is just that, be aggressive to the ogre immediately, and fuck him up, and you'll be fine. There's also a really, really good loop against this enemy, which involves if you stay really close to him and just attack him, he'll start pushing you away and try and hit you with a parryable move. And all you do is parry it and keep attacking, parry it, keep attacking, parry it, keep attacking, and the ogres will never damage you, they'll never break pattern, and they will never ever be a threat. The only real threat is if there's anybody else doing stuff. And if he does that move he did just then, for some reason, is really tricky to parry. It's almost like it should have a red effect, and it doesn't. And I don't really understand it too much, but learn from my mistakes and you'll be fine. But I was playing the second hardest difficulty under pain restrictions, and I was having a really, really fun time with it. And I was coming up with strategies against bosses where I wasn't even rolling. I was doing no roll strategies for God of War. Why the hell would anybody do that, right? But it turned out to be really effective. There was a boss that was like an abominable snowman that was armoured, and you had to knock its armour off by using that special flame technique that they introduced in that game. And all I was doing was running around it when it was trying to jump at me, and I was getting free hits on it, it would recover, and I was running around it, and I was just essentially doing a Bloodborne strategy in God of War, and it was working wonderfully. And I'd never think to do that because I'd never done that before. But thanks to, Tolo, who came up with the no-roll ideas and all those videos, and Hado ended up doing it, and I was like, I'm never going to do this, I don't see why anybody would do it, it doesn't sound fun to me. And then a year or two later, I decide to do it, and admittedly, it's not my favourite thing to do, but I appreciate how it's helped my deductive reasoning for strategies in games, and it's changing how I look at animations, it's changing how I look at attacks, and where you're safe, where you're vulnerable, and how you can exploit things, and I'm very grateful for that, and it's making me a better player of everything, and that's my advice to people if you ever want to get better at anything, is to play as much as you can, play all kinds of things, because you never know what's going to help you ascend. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.